a red balloon.
Say, in the great green room.
In the great green room. In the great green room. There was a telephone. And a red balloon.
And a picture of.
And a picture of that. And there was a picture of the cow jumping on the moon.
And there were.
And they were 3 bears sitting on chairs.
Okay. And 2 little kittens.
2 little kittens.
And a pair of mittens.
And a pair of mittens.
And a little toy.
And a little toy house.
And a young
mouse.
Good job. And a comb and a brush.
Oh, and a comb and a brush and a full of mud.
And a quiet old lady.
And a quiet old lady.
Good job. Say, good night, room.
Good night, room. Did I say now?
That's it. Turn the page. The next page says, good night.
Good night, moon. And good night, cow. And there was a cow jumping over the moon.
Yeah. Good night, light.
Good night, light.
And the red balloon.
Good night, red balloon.
Good night, bears.
Good night, bears.
Good night, chairs.
Good night, tears.
Next page. Next page.
Oh. And there was 2 little kittens.
Say, good night, kittens.
Good night, kittens.
Good night, mittens.
Good night, mittens.
Good night, clocks.
Good night, clocks.
And good night, socks. Good night, little house.
Good night, house.
And good night, mouse.
Good night, mouse.
Good night, comb.
Good night, comb.
And good night, brush.
Good night, brush.
What's that? Good night.
Good night, the mouse.
Good night. Who's that? What's that? Good night. Nobody.
Good night, it's good night, nobody. Good night, nobody.
And
good night, mouse.
And this one is good night to the quiet. Oh, good night to the old lady.
Oh, good night to the old lady.
The spring.
What's the spring? And good night, stars. And good night,
Good night, noises everywhere.
Good night, noises everywhere.
The end.
The end.
Good job, buddy.
Don't want you to say.